Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street, finally back with some videos today. Apologies, work takes over as well. And also I did just enjoy a very nice Indian curry and I have Jaffa cakes for later. Can't wait. Guys, let's take a look at IOTA. Before we do, make sure you check out all our other videos that we've covered over the multiple weeks. Now we try and do more and more each day as we can, so do bear with us, but hopefully you're enjoying the content. Guys, let's take a look at a couple of these aspects first in the IOTA sphere. So first of all, how emerging fintech companies can leverage a borderless future for European business. Now, Entrepreneur Europe are basically kind of following on from the kind of news that we covered previously in regards to the, of course, Europe Commission basically building their blockchain, and they have chosen IOTA as one of the really key partners in this. And I think this is absolutely phenomenal. So around the EBSI, building a distributed ledger technology for Europe. Now, when people said to me a couple of years ago, digital currency, absolute waste of time and this, that and the other. Now, of course, there's digital currencies, but then people don't realize that cryptocurrency isn't just Bitcoin, guys. It's a load of other things, including, blockchain in general. Now, this aspect really infuses me about the IOTA program even more. And I still openly admit I do not hold IOTA, and I've been waiting for a nice entry point, but potentially I may have missed that, and I'm happy to admit that. That's just part of the parcel. I've got a multitude of projects, and I felt that me personally, if I added IOTA, I wouldn't be adding enough to make kind of a major difference, and I didn't just want to hold it just for the sake of it. But for those that are holding IOTA or are wanting to get in, that doesn't mean that you can't. You might be new to this and you might be looking for projects that are the future. This is for sure one of them. And we'll go into the chart in a bit, of course, on this as well. But we've sort of, this emphasis around, here saying about COVID-19 pandemic and how they want to move forward with things. Now, I've always been open here on the Whales of Wall Street about, what blockchain is going to bring, and especially with IoT and AI projects like IOTA. It's something that I do in the real world, as it were. I'm very heavily involved in the IoT sphere. And I think that once you put these kind of combinations together, you can really realize how automation will occur, autonomous world. But for this particular aspect, the cross-border transactions, now there's a lot of cost involved when sending and receiving money across multitude of countries. You've got things like exchange rates to think about as well, speed, efficiency, time, energy. And all these things, of course, it's not just IOTA. There's a multitude of projects out there. And we know about Ripple, we know about Stellar Lumens and what XTC, Zoomfin are doing. But IOTA brings kind of like a really interesting aspect of, improving the efficiency, improving the cost dilemma. But what's interesting about blockchain is it's trying to integrate not just the aspect of the finance cross-border transactions, but you've got to think of the other things that IOTA do. So they kind of have essentially a miniature influence additionally that other cryptos don't. They tend to just focus purely on transactions and fintech and interoperability between banks and countries with transactions. But IOTA can do that, but can do so much more because of its integration with all these other things. And we've covered most of those in many other videos. Go and check out the intro ones that we've done as well. And of course, we covered other unbelievable case studies and projects that these guys are doing. But this for sure for me is an absolute gem for the future. I'm not just saying that. I know what AI and IoT is going to bring to the table over the next 4 or 5 years. I know the market value. We've covered that as well in the previous video. I'll try and find a link to that and put that at the end of this video. But IOTA for me is just the community aspect is absolutely phenomenal. I love the social media actions that they're doing and providing the information, the education around all of this. The team behind it is absolutely phenomenal. But I just feel like the technology and what it actually brings to the table is actually quite amazing. And it almost stands out against anyone else, in my opinion, across the board. And of course, the partnerships with the likes of the European Commission, when you've got that big overview of a gigantic continent like Europe, which will essentially be channeled outwards. You've got to take note of these things as and when they go. So I think it's really interesting. And in that report showcases the potential of IOTA and other DLTs, so distributed ledger technology, to achieve the UN's SDGs. So it's again just ploughing through this aspect, and I do recommend reading through these because you do understand a lot more about what they're trying to do and why are they trying to use IOTA. What are they trying to achieve with this new DLT blockchain solution? And IOTA is right up there for sure. Here, for example, making 1 cup of coffee in a single serve machine uses about 22,000 times more energy than a Raspberry Pi 4 node uses per IOTA message transaction. So it's suggesting that it's phenomenally less energy consumption than your average day-to-day kind of usage of things in your own home and everything like that. So this in particular, I really enjoyed reading this particular piece because it does go into about logistics and operations, supply chain. I know a lot about supply chain through the distribution mechanism and transportation of goods from various countries. So I know a lot about that. And when it's not just IOTA, of course, we're looking at projects like VeChain and many others that are trying to really improve by using know your customer, smart contract aspect, trust, verifications, etc. for supply chain mechanism. And what interests me is the link that the European Commission have with IOTA now. What's to say that other regions, say like maybe Asia, would have a certain supply chain mechanism, and then Europe might have its own, and they'll interlace, of course, because blockchain allows that and interoperability. But with this whole kind of tokenization around supply chain, I think it's going to be really interesting and I'm sure that one of the key aspects of IOTA with the European Commission is to effectively improve this supply chain. I always talked about this in previous videos quite recently, that when you see all these news articles about a ridiculous massive cargo ship turning on its side in the Suez Canal, which you've never heard of in your life, and it's very conveniently timed just after a pandemic, and the whole circus act of supply chain problems and food problems, fuel problems, especially here in the UK at the moment. It's absolutely ridiculous. But you just have to sometimes take a step back. I'm not saying it's completely 100% correct and accurate what I'm saying here, but think sometimes out of the box. All of these things happening at the same time, and it's almost like it's a testing mechanism or an answer to a problem, but they already have the solution to it, and it makes them look like the heroes, as I say in the other videos, and people just all of a sudden don't even know it's happened and the transition's complete. I truly believe that these kind of projects are ready to go, and they're proving themselves to these commissions, to these countries, what they are capable of. Absolutely phenomenal. So there's loads of really fantastic projects going on, as I've mentioned, with the European Union, and I think this is really interesting as well. But I haven't watched all of it. I've watched some of this. Why the passport needs an upgrade. Now, Carolina Hendricks, so talking on TED Monetary section of here, and IOTA sort of pinpoint really that they have the answers to this. They already have the solutions to identity verification and things like this. Now, let me just put it into perspective. So we're not just talking about ID like driving license and passports, because ultimately very soon those things will go into a blockchain environment. There's no doubt about it. Once you have your trust mechanism and your data and you as a person within blockchain on a digital scenario, it's easier to travel around. It's easier to be identified and verified because of AI, cameras, facial recognition, all of these things interlaced with blockchain coming very soon, biometric payments, sensors within you. There's no need to almost check things anymore because the AI algorithm has improved so much. We've given so much human to machine learning aspects that eventually, very soon, probably in the next 5-10 years maybe, you're going to see a lot more machine to machine learning. And that means that a machine, i.e. an AI camera, will talk to the digital holdings of your documents and measure those up to confirm that it is definitely you. and you have been here, you've been there, and through the whole tokenomics of blockchain, we'll be able to tell your entire historic travel information, whether it be taxis, hotels, planes, whatever it is, because it's all on the same thing. It's all on the same thing. So, you can't you can't mislead people with saying you went here but you didn't, you went somewhere else, or this, that, and the other. It will all be directly stored in the data format, and the hashes of blockchain. It's incredible. So, they're talking about the Estonian technology-driven government. Well, there's some really interesting countries out there taking the advantage and taking the forefront ahead of countries that you would expect to be the first. Our country here in the UK is so slow with everything. I always joke on Twitter, it takes 5 years to fill in a pothole down the road, and not just my potholes down the road, everywhere. It takes about 5 years to do roadworks when it would take the Netherlands, for example, 2 weeks. It's a joke. So, fair play to all these countries, not wasting our time and money, as they say in here, to push it. And the more they do it, the economical value improves. The speed of things, the transactions of things improve. So it's really interesting. I fully recommend watching this. I literally got about 5 minutes in and I didn't finish the rest of it. But please go check this out. So this is on TED Talks, Carolina Hendricks, and around the passport digitalization. And it doesn't stop there, guys, because actually the trust mechanism, right, very soon, the whole AI aspect and KYC and smart contract development and tokenization, it will allow not necessarily smartphones, because I think obviously we're going to biometrics soon and sensors within us. It will allow the machine aspect to take control of your decision making based on your behavior, your algorithm, everything like this. So for example, when I know these fridges exist already, you can take an item out of the fridge and it will reorder it for you. And there's a whole mechanism of that linked in as well. But imagine doing business deals for you, or choosing what hotels you would normally like to go to, or the type of car you want to be transported in, or the different foods you might, within the sensors within you, they'll algorithm that actually you need some more iron, Simon. We're going to order you some extra food in this nutritional value. All of these things, I'm just trying to get you guys to think outside the box as to where this is going. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. And this is why IOTA is one of those key projects that doesn't just focus on finance. It focuses on a multitude of aspects of blockchain. And the fact that it's so green and expertly done, this is one of the key projects, in my opinion. And I might be lazy and not getting any myself, but that doesn't mean I don't have to talk about it, because I believe in this project. I believe in AI sector. We've already covered how big, trillions and trillions of dollars this will be. Go and check out the website. Go and check out our intro videos. This is phenomenal, guys. Absolutely phenomenal. So, guys, we'll wrap that kind of bit of info aspect in and the thought processing. Let's go into the chart. First of all, if you're finding this informative, do smash that like button. Massively helps us out. And subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. Or if you are new to the channel, welcome aboard, and hopefully you'll enjoy the video content that we provide across a multitude of assets. So let's take a look at the chart, guys. Couple of observations. We managed to hit one of our buy areas here, where we thought that as we were seeing the rise, if you remember, we did say there might be another opportunity for it to come back. So we had the resistance here at $1.38, so 1.38. And that tended to be an interesting line, because actually back here we shot straight through it. We saw a couple of touchbacks here on both the 7th and the 13th of September. And prior to that, there really wasn't much movement around this area other than a big drop through and a couple of touch points around here back in April. So that's why we sort of put that buy option there as a kind of a safe bet. We did put a cheeky one down here. I'm not saying that we will definitely not come back down to this level, but that's going to be quite a long shot in my opinion. That's why we drew this one here as just maybe a slightly above testing ground. Now, if we kind of drew this very temporary orange trend line here, I have extended it out slightly. So we actually drew it to this point here. So we're pretty much bang on where we need to be. But look at this. This is where we hit the other day. So it's very interesting, isn't it? I always find charts fascinating in terms of the psychology behind traders, because clearly they're analysing things on so many different levels. But I'm trying my best to pick up on as many things as I can find, so hopefully you find this interesting. But yeah, I found it really interesting that these resistances not only just came in par with this fib retracement line, but also the trend line that we had that was ongoing through this line here. And that's not saying like I've predicted the future. It's more about, really analysing where these things go and what future potential resistance lines could be, not just by fib retracement, but actually the level of history. So you could be inclined to say that eventually, if we carried on tracking this line, you might start to get a relatively good idea of where prices might go to. So, there's an argument to say, and I'm not saying this is fully accurate, but I'd like to think that by the end of October, we would be up here somewhere around that 180 pushing. We haven't got to the all-time high yet, the 268 that we had previously. Got a bit of a way to go for that. In fact, let's just take a look at how far away that is from this current position. So from the current position, there is still 109 or about 105% increase left to do to get back to the previous all-time high. Then once we're above that, guys, it's just a question of price discovery and see how high IOTA can go in this upcoming bull run. So what do I want to see? I want to see us testing this level here that we're currently sat at, and kind of at the time of recording, really, around this 128.29 mark. I don't think we're going to push just over that 130 cent mark yet, which is in line with this fib retracement level. It doesn't look like we're going to close above that today, but hopefully we'll see. We'll see how that happens. We've got a few hours left in terms of the markets on our end, and of course the Asian market opens up in around 2 a.m. GMT time. So it could be possible. What I want to see though is 2 or 3 days of stability around this area. If we get a rejection, maybe certainly today and tomorrow, I do think we could come back and potentially test this previous area of 120. Now that could be a good entry point for those that have missed the recent ones, or perhaps you're new to the videos that we're doing on IOTA, or perhaps you're new to IOTA in general, and you want to just be cheeky and wait for something a bit lower. So that's an opportunity. It's really down to this 130 level. Can we get above it? If we can, we need two days, maybe 3 max of a close over this line, and then we can start pushing up to that 139 mark. If we can't get past this resistance, then we may tally back down, and that's not a bad thing. Doesn't mean the project's bad or anything like that. It's just a general either correction from some profit taking people who've lost confidence, or it's just generally that resistance barrier. We're not quite ready. We need to get that real price momentum. So let's keep an eye on that over the next 24 to 48 hours. I'll give an update perhaps over the weekend when I start seeing some significant movement, or certainly I'm looking for a specific indicator, certainly on a 4-hour chart, which I'll pull up in over the weekend as well, where we may go. And also to point out that these, what I quite like to hear is this is new higher low compared to the previous one here on the 31st of August. So we are moving in the right direction, guys. If we can get a close, by the way, of this 130, I think we could start pushing this path here. That's why I think that hopefully by the end of October we could be around this 180 mark. I'm just going to draw it up here so we've got a reference point around that period of time to see how close we were. I'm just going to put it around. I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to kind of cover. What on earth is that? That's not a circle, is it? Let's just draw this area here. So I'm kind of anticipating that we might get to around this area end of October. Let's see if that happens. So guys, yeah, very interesting moves on the IOTA chart at the moment. One thing we will do as well, as we get momentum over the next couple of weeks, I will also put in some potential selling off periods. So I'm going to imagine as if I'm holding some and I've entered at certain specific areas. For example, here on the 30th of September, I'm just going to put some general markers in the next video to not say it's not financial advice, it's just opinion. If I was doing it, this is what I would be doing. It gives you an indication and keeps the psychological aspect in your mind about taking profits as you go along. Because one, you can take advantage on the way back down, and two, it means that because you don't know where the top is, you're reducing the risk of missing out on potential gain income for yourselves. So that's why you want to do it. A couple of other observations before we wrap up here, guys. Of course, we've had this gigantic selling volume here. It's absolutely horrific to look at. But it was necessary because of this big jump up here. And I always say this, if you see this, trust me, it comes down and people go, oh no, it's not coming down, you're wrong. But it always comes back down. I was surprised, to be fair, that it came down so high. In fact, let's just see how far down we came. 50% I think is pretty fine. I can usually see it up to 70%, but I wasn't anticipating up to 70 because this drawdown here, I think IOTA is too strong for that to hit that down there again. So that's really positive to see. A couple of other things, the histogram here is now in a buying momentum. It's not massive, but it's certainly gaining confidence. So that's why I said about the next 40 hours being really critical to see, have we got enough confidence to push ourselves up to that 137, or are we going to come back down to this area around 118, 120. The MACD here is switched over here on the 6th of October, giving it a bullish momentum, guys. So it's in my opinion, I feel like most of the correction is done. It's just maybe a retest, a very minor retest, before we start shooting upwards, because I do believe with all this fantastic news that IOTA is bringing to the table, and just the general enthusiasm and confidence that's building in the markets across the board, this will start taking us to new heights. And I hope by the middle of November, towards the end of November, we are smashed through that all-time high and we are aiming for that moon. Let us know in the comments below if you're holding IOTA, what your price predictions are, or if you're new to IOTA or you have any questions, throw them in the comments. We'll try our best to answer them, and do use our references of intro videos and everything like that. And do research on the project. Go and check out some other channel videos as well. It's not just our opinion that's important. We try and take into consideration other people's opinions as well, because that's what this space is about, helping each other out and pushing all of us to hopefully generational wealth so that we can get out of the system. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in IOTA on the moon. Bye bye.